Leather is a natural fiber and needs the proper environment to maintain its health and strength. This often involves having the proper humidity and moisture content within the fibers, as well as temperature for use and storage. Helping to ensure the leather fibers stay nourished and strong is the main reason why leather can benefit from periodic conditioning. We're going to look into why leather needs conditioning, the main methods for conditioning, the most popular types of conditioners, and then we're going to give you an example of conditioning leather step by step. So with that, let's dive right in. Why leather needs to be conditioned. Leather from the tannery usually starts out in great shape. It's going to have the proper oils, the proper conditioning, and moisture content to keep it really strong and looking good. That way, when we make our leather items, they're going to look great, be durable, flexible, and sturdy. Over time though, from use or exposure to the environment, moisture, oils, and conditioners are lost from the leather and it needs to be restored. This is usually due to the soiling of the leather that can draw out the moisture, or if we use harsh cleaning that removes that moisture, or just lack of periodic maintenance in general to replace it. Leather usually needs two things to stay in good shape: humidity and temperature. When we look at humidity, a good range is generally between 40 and 60%, with around a 5% daily fluctuation and around 8% overall. And that's for a good reason. Leather fibers are going to expand and contract as humidity enters and exits. And when that happens, it's similar to if we bend a piece of leather over and over. It's going to start to weaken. And you'll notice if you have shoes or something that you've worn a lot, it'll begin to wrinkle in that flex point. And then eventually those fibers get weak. Maybe they get a little bit floppier. And then eventually they're going to rip and tear and break. Surely that takes a long time. Though if we are exposing it to major fluctuations daily, that's going to be flexing that every day, up and down, up and down. Even if it's small and you're not really seeing it visibly with the eye, it's still happening with large changes in that humidity. If it goes above 68%, that leather is going to swell. And if it goes below 22%, there's going to be permanent water loss, shrinkage, and damage. And this is going to relate obviously to conditioning. The second one we're going to look at is temperature. So the best temperature is around 68 degrees Fahrenheit with a maximum of 77 with around 7-degree fluctuations. If it's too warm, the leather could start to dry out. And if the fluctuations are too much, those fibers can begin to weaken again through that expansion and contraction day to day. So most often, we aim to condition leather when it has lost too much moisture, or periodically as good maintenance practice so it never loses too much that it might get damaged. So now that we know a little bit about the humidity and the temperature, let's look into the main methods for conditioning. The first is a conditioner-only application, and are usually liquid or oil-based formulas that are applied directly to the surface of the leather. Often, this is with something like a soft cotton cloth, and that is just applied to it. These conditioners absorb into the leather fibers, restoring moisture and flexibility to the leather. 2-in-1 and 3-in-1 cleaners. These products usually blend formulations to combine a few steps of leather care into one, such as cleaners and conditioners, and sometimes 3-in-1, cleaner, conditioner, and protectant. So while seemingly convenient, many of these include synthetic ingredients that can damage leather fibers over the long term. Also, combining all of these into one step is somewhat counterintuitive, and it can be counterfunctional. Leather cleaning is usually intended to first remove things from the leather, such as dirt and grime, and then having something like a separate conditioner intended to add things back to the fibers. That's going to be oils and conditioners and things like that. So when you've got two drastically different steps, one to take things out and one to put things in, it might not be as functionally effective to combine that all into just one wiping application. As with most things though, sometimes it can be great. Depending on the needs, experience, and preferences, one step might be excellent, whereas someone else might want those individual steps and the more natural ingredients in them. Speaking of which, now let's explore the third area, the different types of conditioners. The first are going to be natural. These are commonly made from natural ingredients, oils and waxes, and a natural water or oil carrier base. Usually, these are going to be the most beneficial for leather because they're not adding a lot of synthetic or petroleum-based products into the fibers. Next, we have synthetic conditioners. Now, they're not always going to be totally synthetic. Some might have ingredients that are synthetic or petroleum-based that also are combined with oils and fats to make up a blend of conditioner. So while seemingly effective initially, over the long term they might actually damage and weaken the leather fibers, but it's really going to depend exactly what is in that formula at any given time that you purchase it. Sometimes the recipes manufacturers use change, and so it's important to always check the latest and then see if you're comfortable with that, because some users are going to be totally fine and some are going to want all natural. The next area is oils. Individual oils can be used to condition leather. Some common ones include mink oil. We also have our neat's foot oil, there's lanolin, and there's oil blends. While natural, each has their pros and cons, and it would be dependent on the specific use as to whether one of these is going to be a great option. And the next are going to be our creams and balms. Some conditioner formulas come in a cream form, similar to this. While some conditioners are going to come in a balm form that's similar to this. Usually the conditioning agents in oils and fats are suspended in a cream-like carrier. They can be water-based or thickened with thickeners to create a consistency that is easy to apply. And the fifth type of leather conditioner product are soaps. Products like saddle soap exist to maintain the leather, claiming both to clean, condition, and even add water-resistant properties. So while they can achieve that, there are often some ingredients in these formulas that can damage leather in the long term. And thus it would be context dependent as if it's a suitable choice for you and what you're cleaning. For example, there's information from museums that they've found items they have that have been treated with saddle soap over long periods of time, decades or even a century or longer potentially. Generally, the fibers are in weaker condition than those items from a similar time period that have not been treated with saddle soap. So while there's still more information that's needed, there is some data showing that can be a factor. That said, whether or not to use something like that is going to be highly context dependent on if you're looking to keep something for hundreds of years or if you're looking to use it in the today, here and now. For example, saddlery and tack. In that case, something like this could be an excellent choice because of the use of that particular piece of leather. Now we'll explore the importance of pH, and this is huge. pH is going to affect pretty much everything we do with leather cleaning and conditioning. So like most substances, leather has a pH value. When substances of different pH values come into contact, they're going to work to neutralize one another and come into a balance. So if there's an item with a higher pH and one with a lower, they're going to work to meet in the middle. And when they do that, there is a reaction that happens that releases salt and water, two things that can definitely damage leather. So when choosing a cleaner or conditioner, in this case conditioner, try to find one that is either pH balanced with a neutral 7 or that is around 4.5 to 5, which is what most leathers are. That way, when that substance is applied, it's not going to have those microscopic reactions and begin to weaken the fibers from the inside out. And it's ironic because we're conditioning to restore moisture to leather, not introduce new damage. The irony of that is also that if we introduce a conditioner with a very high pH, the damage may be masked a bit because, you guessed it, we just put a whole lot of conditioner in there and it's going to feel soft and flexible. So just something very important to keep in mind as you're learning about the products and looking at different ones is the pH. Next up is the importance of the ingredients. So we look for leather cleaners and conditioners that have gentle, natural ingredients. And the goal here is to safely clean leather and restore moisture to it with good conditioning, not to add harsh chemicals to it or synthetic materials. For example, some popular conditioners have petroleum-based oils, like silicone, and some have synthetic chemical conditioners or other ingredients that are worthy to be aware of. So usually, a more natural one is recommended, especially when it comes to fats and oils and what goes into that leather, because usually, once it gets deep down into these fibers, it's likely going to be there nearly forever. So you ask, when may a quality conditioner might not really matter? Sometimes an item is a functional one intended to be used hard and worn out in a year or two. In that case, convenience and performance are often priorities, and most any well-rated conditioner will likely work fine. The potential long-term damage that might be caused by synthetic ingredients, or a big pH difference, or combo cleaners and conditioners might be superseded by the convenience and benefits of quick results and water resistance. For some people and items, this can be a great choice. For other items where protecting the leather grain, texture, and longevity are priorities, other more natural choices can be more beneficial. It's rarely an all or nothing recommendation. It's very context dependent on what you choose is best for you. All right, on to the action. So now we're going to condition a piece of leather step by step and show you how that's done, which in most cases is going to be similar across the different styles of conditioners that we've talked about. So here we have two samples. One we're going to keep original. Second one we're going to condition so you can see the difference. We're going to put down our base here to protect our work surface. Put our sample in. For this we're going to use a white cotton rag. And we're going to use a leather honey conditioner. This is a pretty natural one and gives some good results. So first thing we're going to do is, before we condition, make sure our leather is clean, as clean as possible. So typically we're going to use a gentle cleaner on here, let that work, make sure it's dry, and then we can condition. So we'll just open our container here. We're going to put out some conditioner on our cloth. Now if you see, it kind of bunches in different areas based on how it's poured out. So you kind of want to smooth it out so you don't get a huge blotch as soon as you put it down. That way it's not going to be too concentrated in any one area as much as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but in general, if you do that, it's going to be a little better than just mashing it all in one spot and then swirling it around. But that can work too. All right, and then here, you're going to want to take your time and make sure you get good even coverage. And then what I like to do at the end is kind of put a light layer over everything to kind of blend it in together. So let's make sure that we've got it kind of everywhere, and then I'll go in and do that last run through. All right, so you can see we have pretty good coverage. So I'll do one more pass. I'll do kind of big swirls to make sure we're getting that blended across the surface evenly, because some conditioners will darken leather, some more than others. So if you're going to do it to the whole surface, you're going to want to do it as evenly as possible. And that way you don't get darker spots in some areas that may have received more conditioner than others. All right, so there we go. We now have our conditioned sample. You can see it's already lightening up a little bit on that side. And the dry time is going to vary based on how much is put on there. how dry it was before conditioning, the ambient factors such as temperature and humidity in the room, all those kinds of things. So when we compare it, we now have our before and we have after just applying it. But the important thing is, what does it look like once it's dry? How much is it actually going to change the leather color? So here is a sample of that after being dry for over 24 hours. So we have where we started just applying it and then after it's dry. So the really important one is going to be this comparison, before and dry. And you can see that there's a very subtle color change, but not huge. It's not like it darkened it significantly. Each leather is certainly going to vary in terms of how it receives that conditioning, how the color change may be. While in this example, it's a little darker, but not too much, which is really great. Conditioned. So periodically cleaning and conditioning leather can help maintain its strength. And while there seems like there's a lot to keep in mind, it's really simple. If you want to preserve the leather for a long term, find a gentle, natural conditioner, then periodically maintain it, and you should be in excellent shape. And there you have it. Until next time.